Thank you so much, Dr. Williams and staff, Ms. Charlie Green and Ms. Yarborough, as well as the rest of your staff for coming here today to meet with us, as well as all the council colleagues. I know everybody has a busy schedule, but this is obviously a very important topic. And whenever we talk about the education of our children, it's always very important. So thank you again for coming. Appreciate everybody's time. I know that some people may have to pop off a little early. They told me they had some previous engagements. So what we'll do, I guess we'll go ahead and hand you the floor, Dr. Williams, and just recognize that there may be a question before the presentation is over, just so that we can give everybody an opportunity to communicate with them. Go right ahead.
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. As Chair Jones shared, we have our Chief of Staff, Ms. Charlie Green, our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Yarborough, Tony Bazemore, and I believe our Chair of the Board may be joining us, Julie Hinn. And so I want to thank Mr. Boswick. We have submitted a quick little presentation, and for those who have to pop off or those who aren't present, we'll make sure that everyone has a copy of that. If we can get to the presentation. Oh, it's Mr. Phillips. Thank you. Next slide, please.
We're one and the same, Dr. Williams. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No.
So
thank you.
I just wanted to give some context that over 77,000 students are transported twice a day, the 80,000 miles per day, and 785 bus routes. As you can see, we do service 200 schools each day, including facilities outside of Baltimore County based on the needs of our students, as we listed the counties there. We have over 800 buses at 11 facilities in the West Zone, Central Zone, as well as the East Zone. And then we have what we call the White Fleet vehicles, 440 White Fleet. A lot of those White Fleet vehicles are pertaining to grounds or food and nutrition. And more importantly, we do partner with 6 school bus contractors. We have over 700 bus drivers and probably over 300 bus attendants that are working for our system. Next slide, please. Wanted to share a little bit of the challenges. As we know, this is a national shortage of drivers. And for us, this pertains to several areas. So when you look at the number of vacancies, we have 97 vacancies, plus what we call call outs. The day of, we may get a call out from a bus driver that's averaging about 8%. And then we have bus drivers on leave for a variety of reasons, an extended or approved extended leave. That might be FMLA, maybe even performance. All of that sums up to 205 vacancies. But our goal is to make sure we are supporting our students each and every day. And we adjust and problem solve in real time to support the needs, not only of our bus drivers, but also of our students. So we have bus drivers who we support and compensate if they have to provide a double or triple back combined trips or routes to transport our students. Clearly, the late service is not our goal. We respect and understand our students need to be in school. They need to provide these resources. And we do want to thank our bus drivers who really stepped up and took on additional routes and additional responsibilities, in addition to central office staff members in the Office of Transportation who actually was transporting. They have their CDL license and they were transporting our students. When we had the efficiency report completed, there was a focus groups of our different positions in the Office of Transportation, but the focus group of drivers and bus driver attendants were asked what they like most about their job. Over 80% of them responded, the children. They enjoy our children and they're doing the job to meet the needs and to get our students to school each and every day. So these are the challenges that we have faced this year. Next slide, please. As we were looking at the report from the efficiency review and looking at our challenges, we reached out to various stakeholder groups to talk about what we can do to improve our challenges and provide better services. Our commitment is to lessen these disruptions, lessen the lateness of our buses. We will continue to work with our stakeholder groups that are listed on this slide. More importantly, we're doing some work this summer with our school-based leaders and our office staff as we're looking at training. In addition, each year we provide a climate survey to our students, our staff, and our parents, and those data points help to inform us about our next steps. And so this group is very important to us. We have been utilizing this list of individuals or groups throughout any initiative, and particularly as we're looking at the Office of Transportation and this challenge around buses. Next slide. So as we were doing our work, we understand through the National School Transportation Association that these 4 buckets are very important. 4 buckets in terms of how we should respond to our challenges. The first one is maximize safety. But clearly, we have to make sure that it's not only in our schools, but also on our buses. So building that culture for our students to be safe each and every day, and to work with our schools and our administrators if there are constant repeat offenders, what will be our response? Because more importantly, we have to maximize that safety on the bus. Leveraging technology, we're looking at advancing our routing system to be able to have accurate information and to even track our buses so we know where our buses are. The third bucket, driver shortages, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that is all around the recruitment and retention of our bus drivers. And then measure quality and reliability, really looking at data, allowing the data to inform us about how the performance of our drivers, but also the maintenance of our equipment and fleet, as well as data points that we can get from the technology to see how we are supporting our students. So the improved efficiencies to the right, looking at our services, real-time communication to our stakeholders, and consistent responses to bus behavior infractions. Next slide. I referenced the efficiency report, and I do want to highlight just quickly in our report for Baltimore County Public School, Chapter 6 was dedicated to transportation. Of the 24 recommendations, you can see on the left, those are the 24 recommendations, and then on the right are the disposition, the final disposition. There was only one where we said no, and that finding was transportation BCPS should solicit the assistance of both BCPS purchasing and MSDE to eliminate the sleep study requirement and resolve this matter with the vendor or pursue changing vendors for pre-employment physicals. We are unable to control the vendor nor the procedures used by the vendor, and Baltimore County government chooses the vendor. So that was the only one that we were not able to fulfill. Next slide. If you recall, back in October, working with the county executive and his team, we looked at ways to make sure we were compensating our bus drivers. So we did the shift differentials, the retention bonuses, the perfect attendance, and even recruitment. I do want to point out, as we were looking at the entire year, our bus drivers ended up getting a total of a $2,000 retention bonus. We gave $1,000 retention bonus to bus drivers, and then we gave an additional $1,000 we gave $1,000 to bus drivers, and then we gave $1,000 to all BCPS staff members, included the bus drivers, which meant they ended up getting $2,000. And the feedback from them was greatly positive, greatly appreciated. Next slide. So as we're moving forward, I want to call this as our project Operation Yellow Bus, looking at a variety of ways in which we are recruiting our bus drivers and attendants. And so I just want to highlight various points. First, we're looking at the wages, providing $19.02 per hour, providing a higher rate, which include that $2 additional hourly rate that I referenced back in October. Working with our county executive and our officials on the county government, the fingerprinting, physical exams, the drug testing, and sleep apnea, no costs. We do provide a competitive health care and paid time off with benefits. That's positive that folks are getting benefits. We're implementing part-time shifts. So for folks who may want to work part-time, looking at a variety of shifts to accommodate their needs. That will be new this year. Also, what's new, we will be working with our part-time and substitute employees to pay them that is commensurate with their years of experience. This past year, that was a barrier. We were able to work with our folks to really honor and support those who may have experience and can come in at a higher rate than at the entry rate. We also looking at our retire, rehire program. Again, that hourly rate will be commensurate with the years of experience. Also effective July 1 is $150 monthly attendance incentive. Remember, if you saw one of the barriers, the call outs. So we want to recognize those who are coming to work each and every day and honor them. And of course, an extra few dollars a month will be beneficial. We are going to be implementing, which we're excited that our paraeducators and our adult assistants are strongly encouraged to join our bus attendant team for an AM or PM shift. So it's like having piecing jobs together. They can be a part of the transportation team before their shift starts as a paraeducator or an adult assistant. Those adult assistants are those staff members that provide more than likely one-on-one support to students. So we're trying to build that capacity and really piecing pieces of jobs together for our paraeducators who may want additional funds, as well as our adult assistants. So in essence, we're going to be flexible, and we're going to work with our paraeducators and our adult assistants to identify shifts that supplement their support of our schools and students. So that's what we call Operation Yellow Bus. Next slide. The work that we're doing now. So updating our discipline reporting and infraction consequence guidance. We're going to support our bus drivers to have that done electronically, so they are able to quickly provide information directly to our school leaders, and our school leaders will be able to respond. The route finder has been upgraded. This is for our bus drivers. I like to say the route finder is like Wave or GPS. So as our bus drivers are going to are in their routes, they are able to find the most efficient or quickest way if there are potential problems or traffic problems down the road. We're implementing this mobile and web-based application, which is a technology in a few of our schools to know where the location of the bus may be. We're going to be experimenting with this during this summer because this will be such a upgrade for our students and our families to know exactly where their buses are. The two-way radio was a request from our bus drivers, so they're able to quickly communicate with their dispatcher as well as the Office of Transportation, and the transportation is able to communicate with schools and back and forth. So we're excited about continuing the two-way radio implementation plan. And then the multifunction school activity bus, I actually got a picture of that, will be piloted in 4 high schools. So what does that mean? We have a smaller bus where you don't need a CDL license, and we're going to be using that for our after-school activities. And we hope to build that those buses as we continue to implement that and see how this is operating for this first year. If you go to the next slide, you'll actually see, yes, you see the bus on the right. We've heard from our schools around drop-off in the morning. We're going to extend the morning drop-off so there's more time for our buses to get to school. Bus drivers can drop off students. Our safety assistants and staff will be available so the bus drivers can then drop off and leave and go to the next route. Some of the complications is sometimes our buses would wait to a certain time period to then drop off students and then proceed to their next pickup. So we're going to work to extend that time at the middle school as well as the high schools. There were some schools that were doing that. We want to make that consistent. We're even looking at a ridership opt-in. We're going to be working with a particular section of our county. Our principals in the Northeast area wanting to look at this to really have parents, if they need bus transportation, for them to opt in and to touch every family to see what do you need so they have an accurate number of how many students will be riding the bus. And so we're going to look at this ridership opt-in model. And then we're going to continue to tweak a little bit our magnet service to make sure all magnet service have the hub stops. We maybe continue to do some kind of hybrid for Eastern, but we really want to make sure we align what we say in the board policy and the magnet application about transportation for magnet schools. And then finally, looking at alternative school vehicles and other technologies to support communication. Next slide. This comes up frequently about this service. And so what I wanted to provide is just an overview of what the services look like for our walkers. And as you can see, the data that we gathered, many of our systems in Maryland do have a higher service for our middle schools. And I wanted to provide this information that this is something that we can consider, and these are simply recommendations. Nothing has been final. Clearly, there's our policy, our board policy 3410 that speaks to the walking distance. But I wanted just to share that what we look like, Baltimore County Public Schools, compared to several other nearby systems in terms of how far students are allowed to walk. Another service adjustment recommendation is to look at when there are issues that we may have to cancel bus trips or routes. and providing that notification the night before so families have some opportunities to plan. So those are 3 or 4 service adjustment recommendations. Next slide, or final slide. We'll continue to work through those recommendations and finalize those steps. Once we have finalized the steps, the communication will be to our stakeholders as we prepare for opening of schools. And then we'll monitor our progress. We'll continue to work with a consultant. There's a former director of transportation, I believe, from Howard County, that has been working with us to really help us improve in this area. So today I wanted to give a quick update where we were with transportation. Again, I titled it Update Number 1. I know in the near future, I'll be providing updates regarding the system-wide vacancies. In the recommendation, it talked about savings for direct benefit of classrooms. I appreciate that, as well as savings to provide additional compensation to employees. So I'll be providing an update regarding our vacancies. Definitely want to always talk about academic achievement. Happy to provide an update about that. And then third area is school safety. There was a particular interest about the safety assistance that we're piloting and other initiatives regarding the safety of students and staff. So with that, thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Dr. Williams. I certainly appreciate it very much. I'll just weigh in and just make one quick comment. During the presentation, we were talking about counseling routes, and I've advocated for, when we know we have problems, to take the burden off the system by giving people maybe a week or 2 notification that you're going to cancel a route. I was thinking counseling it the night before is better notice than none, but it still puts parents in a bind if you call it the night before.
Sure. Thank you.
But on that note, I'll open it up to questions and comments from the members, and I see Councilman Quirk.
Thank you, Chairman Jones, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent. We appreciate your briefing. And I'm going to be quick, and also with an apology that I have a 5:30, unfortunately, but I will be looking at the replay on this, and I apologize I can't stay the whole time. Superintendent, I mean, I get emails all the time from parents about our buses. One recently was my son's driver retired in April 5 weeks ago. We still have no driver. We were told it is our problem because he doesn't have an IEP. We are a family with 2 working parents. Never in my 45 years of life did I know that buses were considered a luxury and that we could be told that they don't have to provide transportation. And then this parent goes on, I mean, emails galore about, okay, so they told their son to walk to another bus stop, but then they were told, well, he can't take that bus stop because that's not his stop. But I want you to know that that's not atypical. And I can assure you, as you do know, that the county council has been inundated with phone calls, texts, Facebook messages about buses not showing up at all, not just late, but not even showing up. And sometimes not showing up and then not even be told they're not going to show up for hours after the fact. So that's one thing I just wanted to relay. But I also am concerned, also about just bottom line academics. I mean, if we look at our graduation rates, for example, we're ranked 19th now in Baltimore County out of 24 schools in our graduation rates. So we're at the bottom of the list. And our dropout rate is the 5th highest in Maryland. And we've seen results, especially students in minority communities where their academics are really falling off a cliff. So our issue, please don't mistake, is not just about buses, but our issue is also about the academic performance and data in Baltimore County Public Schools. that unfortunately is in serious decline. So that, I think that's probably our number one concern. And again, I apologize, I can't stay. And again, I appreciate you being here, Mr. Superintendent, and I hope we can do this on a quarterly basis. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we do have to do better. That message to that family is quite upsetting. And that's why we were looking at ways to better communicate, to better track, and to better fill the vacancies around transportation. And I know you have to go. The piece that I closed was that an update. I'm happy to update about the academic achievement and our graduation, where we actually had a bump in certain student groups that we haven't had in years past. So I'm happy to follow up and provide some specific data around our graduation or any other academic achievement data point.
And thank you. And I'll listen to the replay as well. And again, I apologize, I can't stay the whole time, but we do appreciate the communication. And thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Quirk. Any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
That's Councilman Mark.
Thank you. Superintendent Williams, thank you for coming today. Thank you for the call we had last Friday. I did appreciate that. Can you talk about the geography of the school bus delays? Why it seems like certain areas, such as the Northeast, tend to have more issues than other areas?
So when I look at the number of call outs, there seems to be more call outs in the Northeast area.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's coupled with vacancies, that one slide that had vacancies and then folks who are on leave. And so a lot of what the feedback was working conditions. As we looked at the surveys from efficiency, the bus drivers want to be heard. They want to make sure that they're being supported when there are concerns or questions happening on the buses. They want to make sure they are being supported by the school staff. So is that bringing that understanding to the two groups, that if there's a concern, let's make sure that the administrators are getting it. So that's why we want to update and have this electronic reporting system, but also the response back to the bus drivers or the supervisors to know what's happening. I think they're, based on the survey from the efficiency report, the feedback from the bus drivers was that it felt like sometimes administrators were somewhat reluctant to actually respond to certain situations. That was the feedback. But on the bright side, our principals in the Northeast area came together and say, we really want to tackle this issue. And that's one of the next steps they were looking at, was the opt-in. So we have specific numbers of who's will need a bus, who's riding the bus, and they're going to work with us to try to look at this for this upcoming year. But I will say, Councilman Marks, it was a combination of the call outs and vacancies that just caused that particular area to be a little bit more challenging. But as you heard, Councilman Marks, there were some problems down in that area as well. So I can't just say it's solely in the Northeast area, but we did see a little bit of an uptick with the number of call outs in the Northeast area.
Yeah, thank you very much. I also agree with Councilman Quirk's comments about discipline. I'm continuing to hear about things at Perry Hall Middle School. It is a real concern for parents. They want their children to be safe. They are frustrated by repeat offenders. So just pass that along. Last thing I'll close with.
You saying discipline on the bus or just discipline in general?
Discipline in general. Discipline in general in schools.
Yeah.
I gave Tony Bazemore some observations from one of our school bus drivers that I think are very helpful. If you could take a look at that. And then the last thing I'll close with, Dr. Williams, if you could do this periodically this summer, every few weeks, that would be really appreciated. We would love over the summer to see the progress you are making so that hopefully this issue recedes in September. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I did follow up with Chairman Jones, and we talked about planning sessions with the council on a regular basis. And again, like I close, I'm happy to follow up as I heard earlier, about the academic achievement, if it's specific around graduation, discipline, what we're doing around that. And the third part was vacancies, just some updates about how we're progressing with our vacancies.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Patton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Williams, thank you for doing this with us today. As I mentioned before in one of our previous hearings, I know that this has not been an easy 2 years, and some things were beyond your control. And I also appreciate the fact that we're going to talk about some of our other concerns moving forward, and we're just going to deal with transportation today, especially when I know a couple of the other members have pretty tight schedules. So I just have a couple questions. So you mentioned in your presentation that the system is hired, I don't know if it's a consultant or a full-time person from Howard County who is an apparent expert in transportation. When was that consultant brought on?
I'm going to, Dr. Yarborough, when was that consultant brought on to provide that kind of guidance?
He's been working with the, good afternoon, everyone. Our consultant from Howard County has been working with the Department of Transportation since February.
Okay. So the recommendations that were put together in Dr. Williams' presentation, when were those recommendations formulated?
These recommendations, we have been looking at transportation all year. The first part was really looking at the compensation. That was when we got feedback from our bus drivers and those in charge of transportation. The initial concern was about the compensation. And so we worked with our county officials, county executive, Stacey Rogers, to really look at that. And then we saw that things started to increase. As I reported to the board, we saw an uptick of behaviors. And so we had to look back as to what was happening with the uptick of our behaviors. So around April and May, we started looking at what we could actually start to begin to change related to transportation. And the team went back and looked at the National School Transportation Association and looked at those 4 buckets. And we really wanted to drill down and make sure we touch everything around safety, the technology, the shortages. We talked about that with the recruitment and retention, but then also some kind of measure. So we started to really build that out in April, probably finalized the end of May. We plan to have, during the month of July, we have training for our principals, we have training for our bus drivers and dispatchers, all of those supervisors, to understand the direction that we're going. So that feedback, the consultant, as you can see, started a little bit early, around February. That helped us to kind of look at our problems. And I must say, we did look at our efficiency report that was given to us. And we've been tackling that whole 700 and some odd page efficiency report all year and provide a final disposition to the board several weeks ago.
Okay, so I can express this, and I'm pretty certain that several of my colleagues would agree with me that this problem has been, transportation problem has been going on for all year. And it just seems to me that BCPS is a little late to the game here, because a consultant's hired in February. In the spring, approaching the end of the school year, that's when we start to hear these recommendations and these data-driven points. And I think that goes to a point of our letter. So I just wanted to express that. And then I want to wrap up with just taking umbrage with one of the comments that you made in your letter in return to us. I have expressed in the in the media that the council is not a combative body. We're a deliberative body, and we are the fiduciary for Baltimore County. So when we see things going wrong, and we see a budget as big as yours, maybe not used as best that it could be, and then we get a request to move $5.5 million out of the transportation budget through a bat into a completely different area of your budget moving forward, that's cause for concern for us. So I just wanted to take umbrage with a comment that you made in your letter, that this is somehow an election ploy or an election year thing for us. And I'll just say that two of my colleagues that signed the letter that you received, that has caused so much consternation among so many folks and some controversy, I suppose. Two of them are not running for reelection. This has nothing to do with their reelection. This has to do with conversations that we've had, that we have the 25th largest and one of the best funded school systems in the United States. And it seems like we're failing on several different levels. So I'm looking forward to further conversations. I'm looking for implementation of the recommendations that we heard today and the metrics that we're going to use moving forward to measure the success of those recommendations.
Sure.
So I'll just leave you with that, and
Sure.
I'll look forward to our next discussion.
Sure. I would just say transportation has been an issue in Baltimore County even before I arrived. And the feedback was that it was somewhat of an antiquated process. And when we brought in our director, Jess Grimm, actually, he was a school-based administrator and came in and looked at ways to really make a difference and to somewhat automate what didn't exist before. And I must say, I have to thank our bus drivers, even during the pandemic, as we were feeding our students who were, during the pandemic, we were still feeding our students and they were transporting food. So yes, we're happy to provide an update. As I mentioned, we're going to be monitoring to see how this is working, and our consultant will be guiding us. I really think, based on the feedback and talking to our folks, it is the actual work conditions, so what's happening on the bus, and it was also compensation. So we'll be happy to provide ongoing updates at how we're trying to move forward to make sure we're getting our kids to school and getting them to school on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Chair, I yield the floor, as they say.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Yes, Councilman Katz?
Proceeding today. Your last comments were very interesting to me, in that you said that our problems with transportation were basically conditions on the bus. And what was the other thing you said? I forget.
It wasn't automated. Some of our practices were not using technology. And so we had to train many of our staff about using the technology. And so that took some time, but I think we're there where our staff now are very comfortable with, technology and be able to develop routes, monitor. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that transportation has been an issue all year. And I would think that the way to approach it would be to determine what the major problems are and then resolve them, And also there's probably other problems that are very easy to resolve. I saw the steps that you're going through, that you went through to come up with recommendations. I was somewhat dumbfounded by what it is that the school system is going through to determine what these recommendations would be. I can't imagine the amount of time spent on that. I would think that what you need to do is interview the bus drivers, which you've done, to find out basically what the issues are. Why do they think that bus drivers are quitting or not, aren't interested? And if there's discipline issues on the buses, I don't quite understand. I saw that you're going to have a reporting system, and so I guess the bus driver is going to put down immediately what the issue is, and then you also had consequences. I mean, are they specific, or I would think that if a child is acting out on a bus, causing disruption, that problem would be taken care of right away. And maybe you don't, it doesn't hurt to have a countywide policy, but that needs to be resolved right away, not
Sure.
waiting for a committee to come up with a recommendation as to what the consequences are going to be. I think that possibly you're making things, not you personally, but the school system is making things a little more complicated than they really have to be. Also, I just want to alert you to the fact that the reason that the walking distance for middle schools is a mile is we had a death some years ago of a middle school student in northern Baltimore County. So such a change middle schools. And obviously in northern Baltimore County and other areas of the county, you have some busy roads as students, you don't want them crossing them. So, just beware. Secondly, as far as our teacher shortage goes, as far as our special ed teacher shortage, again, I know that Baltimore County Public Schools review thing. What I'm interested in is what percent of our teachers are leaving, not retiring, but leaving. And if they're leaving, why? And of course, this is a question that I've asked for years and years and years. And, I think this is an issue that we should be able to resolve. We should be able to resolve that. Just like with the academic issues. When you were a teacher, when I was a teacher, Councilman Marks is a teacher. If we had a class, we knew what issues or what objectives. Are we using objectives, or is it another name? Are they still objectives?
Yeah, they're still.
I don't know if they changed the names or what, but we would know what it is that the kids didn't understand, and we would make sure that that problem was resolved. So, asked about the plans for each of our schools. What was the plan to improve the academic performance of our students? And there's nothing more that we want to hear as a council than you to come up and before the council and say, well, in fifth grade reading, in Baltimore County, we improved this much. In math, we improved that much. That's what we want to hear. And we're not hearing it. We're just hearing about all these plans. And with the amount of money that we spend on our schools, I just believe that, when is that day going to come when we're going to hear all this good news about academics, about school bus drivers,
Yeah.
teachers, etc. Now, I know you've been through a rough period with COVID. We've ended up with students that have a lot of problems, social problems, etc. And I would hope that the staff in the new budget that we approved, that there's going to be resources for these students who are having these problems. The thing that really got me with the funds that were unused and transferred to other uses, what got me was, okay, most of the savings from vacancies in bus drivers, vacancies in teachers, vacancies in special ed teachers. And I'm thinking to myself, why in the world during the school year, didn't we determine why these shortages are occurring, and why didn't you personally, the school, work with the county government or whatever agency you need to work with to use that money to attract new teachers, to attract bus drivers, etc. That's what really concerned me about that fact. So, I just for the future, please, I just hope that you're going to be able to come to us and say, resolve this problem or that problem, and and everyone in the school system knows what the major problems are. And, I know you're comparing our school system to others. Well, we should be the best. We should strive to be the best. We should not be looking at other school systems that are having the same problems because they're having a problem. Doesn't mean we need to have a problem. And, we need to move. Baltimore County has always been known to be excellent schools, and we want to keep our schools good. I don't, and I've said this many times, I don't think there's any excuse for schools in our areas where maybe there's a high minority population, et cetera, should be some of the worst schools in Baltimore County. There is no reason why we can't go into those community schools and turn them around. We owe those communities the best schools. We owe them schools every bit as good as the rest in Baltimore County. And, I don't want to see any child in our school system sold short. I want every child to realize the American dream. And I'll just finish by saying, if a system or a principal allows a child to do things or to do things that the child knows are wrong, and that child is not accountable for that behavior, not held accountable for that behavior, how much can we care about that? How much do we care about that child? And I think that is a huge problem. If you care about someone, send them, you're going to want to have them do what they know is right? And I guess I had a question there. I don't know, but
There,
Dr. Williams.
there were several good nuggets in that. I will say the national shortage of buses. This is what we have been experiencing across the nation, and compensation as well as safety were kind of the top reasons. So we were aggressively looking at that, and will continue to provide updates. The other points that you referenced is what I said, that I'm happy to come back and talk about the system-wide vacancies and the recruitment efforts. And there's some stories within that, as well as, just how we're doing. We did see and it was mentioned earlier about Councilman Marks about the graduation rate, and we can provide updates on that. Our CTE programs, the number of associate's degrees that our students are earning. So yes, I'm happy to come back and talk about our recruitment and retention of our teachers, and the need to have caring, at least one person in that building that cares for a student, as well as some updates on our academic achievement and how our students are doing. And I do, since I'm right there, I would like to say thank you all for attending our graduations, if your schedule permitted. It was a great day, great days of celebration. So be happy to follow up on those important pieces that you described, Councilman Koch.
And in July, middle of July, end of July, and say, well, we projected we're going to have, I'm just making numbers up, 980 vacant teachers position, and now it's we've gotten the number down to 400.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we expect that by September, whatever date it is that school begins, that we will have a teacher in every teaching position and qualified teacher. And let's get, our teachers revved up and ready to go. And the same with the bus drivers, that we project, I don't know, 200 vacancies, and by September, there aren't going to be any vacancies because we've got them filled. And just because other counties are having the same problem, we don't need to have the same problems. We don't. And thank you much. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman Cash. Any additional questions or comments from the members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Toki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Dr. Williams, for joining us this afternoon. I also want to thank you for meeting with me last week and sharing your thoughts and your vision. And also thank you for meeting again with the entire council today. I think communication is really essential here. And I'm glad to hear from my colleagues that there's an interest in keeping an open dialogue and a growing dialogue. It reminds me, I'm a recreation basketball coach, and when I first began coaching 10 or 12 years ago, they had an orientation for the coaches, and one of the senior or the commissioner of the league said, we were asking, like, how often do you communicate with the parents? Should you only send an email out for game days? And the commissioner said, you cannot over communicate. Communicate as much as possible. And those those words always resonated with me, and they seem to ring true for the county council, superintendent, and even I would say with the school board as well. Certainly both of the boards have significant mandates, and we should right now I feel a little bit lost because I don't have my second district teammate Cheryl Pasteur with me on the school board. So I think that we should grow our communications as much as possible, and I was really encouraged to hear my colleagues share those same feelings. Had a conversation with a former director of transportation for the school system. And I think I shared this with you in our meeting last week. And one of the observations he made to me was that some in the private sector, Amazon, FedEx, other businesses that need drivers with CDL licenses are the competition that we're up against. And he said for a company like Amazon, if you have a CDL license, you can drive any vehicle in their fleet, and you become a very hot commodity for that organization because you're not limited to a specific type of vehicle. And I was wondering if you had, and that in combination with the Great Resignation, I just wonder how that has impacted our school system and our ability to transport children. And these companies like Amazon and FedEx, they pay well. You're driving packages, and I don't mean this. I don't mean this to be disparaging to our children, but packages are quiet, and they're not really high maintenance in any way. And they just, if they're not delivered on time, then the receiver of the package does become high maintenance. And I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the issue of where we're getting is that can we be like an Amazon? Can we be like a FedEx and receive, deliver on time? And how has that, have those people that have moved on to higher paying jobs, do we have a sense of how that's impacted our system?
Yes, yes. So I don't have the numbers or the data in front of me, but that has impacted. We will train, they'll get their CDL license, and then they could potentially make twice amount an hour to go to Amazon or FedEx. The hours may be a little bit different, but yeah, that's been an impact to all systems, because you can get that CDL, you can work with us, but right next door, if you can make 30 some odd dollars an hour, folks will jump to that. That's why we're looking at packages. When I talk about our benefits, definitely other opportunities. If folks have to do a double round or run or a triple run, we even are exploring retirees. I mentioned that retiree rehire, and trying to encourage our folks. But yeah, it does impact us, and so that's why we started with the national shortage. How do we provide the compensation? We were looking at the increase of hourly rate and sign-in bonuses, retention bonuses to compete, but systems can't compete with the private sector. This has been a topic many times as I meet with our local superintendents, but also national superintendents. This is that's a problem. So it does impact us tremendously. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Patoka. Any additional questions or comments from the members?
Yes, I can go last, Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Bevan.
Thank you. I don't have my audio on only because I'm very ill today and you don't want to see me, trust me. I do appreciate this meeting and Dr. Williams, but the timing of the meeting is uncanny to me that it's on the last day of school, that we're going to talk about all these things that are going well and that we are going to fix in the future. So with that being said, of course, I will be very articulate, but you know me, I probably won't be as eloquent as some of my colleagues in what I'm about to say. First and foremost, when we sent the letter to you, I thought there was a lot of thought put into the letter, and the letter came right after the BAT was asked for by the county council. And it was kind of the tip of the iceberg for us, knowing about all the transportation issues that we have. And then to ask for $5 million to be moved out of transportation was just, I don't know, kind of crazy to us. So that probably really sparked the letter. And again, I thought it was a thoughtful letter. And I was really taken back by your remarks. I don't remember whether they were to us or in the press or the media, but when you said, well, it's an election year, and I know my colleague, Councilman Crandall, just mentioned it, and you didn't have a response to it. Again, I'm not running. Um, Councilman Quirk's not running. Uh, Councilman Wade Catch has been in this business for 45 years, and I don't think he really cares what he says or who he says it to. So I don't think it has anything to do with politics. It has to do with us answering to our constituents, our parents, staff, Tabco. And so I don't think you can just, that was very dismissive to me that you said that, and you didn't acknowledge it to Councilman Crandall, and I'm hoping you will acknowledge it to me. It was very dismissive. It was like everything that were just brought to your attention, you dismissed and said, well, it's political. And that couldn't be further from the truth, at least for me, at least for me. So I didn't appreciate those remarks. And when you say things like, well, there's always been this transportation issue even before I got here, the only issue that I know that we had before you got here and before you got here, when you were first here, was overcrowding of buses. It was huge. We had kids standing up in the aisles. We had 3 and 4 kids to a seat, sitting on top of one another, sitting on their instruments that they had to take to school. It was a huge safety issue. But I can't remember, and my colleagues, please jump in if I'm talking maybe I'm saying something that's not true for you, but I don't ever remember having an issue with kids left on bus stops and kids not picked up and parents not knowing if their children got home that day or got to school that morning. I don't remember that in the last 3 years. I just don't. So I appreciate you saying that you're going to move forward. I wish that we would have had more conversations through the school year. I appreciate that you're willing to have them moving forward. And I'm always open for dialogue, for sure. But I tell parents this all the time, especially when we do redistricting for schools, and they call me and say, "What can you do? I don't want my child to go to a different school."
Sorry, could you say that again?
I,
Sorry, I'm having trouble
oh,
hearing
I'm sorry,
you.
that was my phone, my wife. When parents would call me and say things like, "I don't want my child going to that school because of the rezoning," I always say, "You do not want politics involved in your kid's education, ever." And I think we all hold that true. It should not be political when it comes to our children, when it comes to teachers. It just shouldn't be. So I don't know if you want to address that comment that you made, want to take it back, have anything to say about it. But it would sure make me feel better.
So the urgency about transportation for me is twofold. There were questions regarding the bat, so I wanted to really talk about what we're doing to address the transportation issue. And when Public Works did its review, it talked about multi-years of this being an issue in Baltimore County about transportation. And so I think the common thread is just the communication that to move forward, that these issues that are big issues, student achievement, safety, vacancies, transportation, are constantly on the radar, and information is being provided on a regular basis, kind of like the progress or even the challenges.
But Dr.
So
They're on the radar. They've been on the radar. How are we getting them off the radar?
right. So to move forward, I think what really made this much more of an issue is the competition that's out there, that we're losing our bus drivers to go other places to make more money. and there's just the national shortages. And to get the CDL license, I didn't really talk about that process to make sure folks get the CDL license, and then to keep them with us. And then it becomes complicated when we started to see an uptick of behaviors in our schools when we open up 5 days a week. So, you know, the purpose of what I'm trying to say is we are in this pandemic recovering, and we want to show some progress. So that's my commitment. The commitment today was to just specifically talk about transportation, and how we're trying to move forward to address these ongoing issues. So students are not late, students are getting to classes and school on time. So right now, what I'm saying is we're trying to move forward, and the bigger piece is more and more conversations so I can provide updates, hear your perspective, take it back because there may be some work that the board needs to do when it comes to policies or anything related to the rules or policies. But at this point, I'm trying to say, and the reason why is sooner than later, because I wanted to get ahead of this, because this is going to take some time to unpack this transportation, just like the system-wide vacancies and school safety. There's a lot of work that we have to do to kind of reset what we're doing across the system, and making sure everybody's on the same page. So that's my point. In trying to move forward with these identified issues and to address them and to provide ongoing updates on how we're doing.
Well, thank you for that. I would like to make a suggestion. I've thrown a few suggestions out over the past year, but this was one I just had recently in having a conversation with Dr. Curtinitis about the future of a school. We were talking about the bus driver shortage. And do you know that CCBC has partnered with Trade Point Atlantic, and they teach tractor trailer driving down at Trade Point Atlantic, and people get their CDL license. And it virtually can absolutely cost a student nothing at the end of the day for getting that license. And I would suggest maybe partnering with CCBC and saying, look, if there is a fee at the end, we'll pay it. And, maybe sign a contract with the school system for a couple years that you'll drive with us if we take care of your CDL license. And maybe this would be maybe bring a whole new generation of folks in instead of just retirees or stay-at-home moms who want to be school bus drivers. It's just a suggestion, but they have a waiting list for the program, and CDL license are very expensive. And if they could get it through CCBC or have the school system kick in for it, maybe this would be a helpful way of encouraging people to sign up.
Absolutely. We're open and we'll work with CCBC as we've done with many of our partnerships. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
And I just want to close with saying, Dr. Williams, I'm only speaking for myself. Children are never political pawns. And I thank you for your time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add one thing? And I want to thank Councilwoman Bevins. I know she's been working very hard on that high school site. Dr. Williams, that really is a regional issue, and I would strongly encourage for you to be working with her and Dr. Kornitis to look at the viability of that. Can you do that this summer, please?
Yes, yes. We can look at that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any additional questions or comments? Well, I will give you the last word, Dr. Williams, but let me just conclude my statements by saying that, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and give us this briefing. Certainly appreciate all the council members hanging in there and asking very thoughtful questions. And, I guess look forward to continued dialogue. Appreciate you communicating with me and your staff. I think there's some very good ideas moving forward. You explained to me why some of them could not be implemented right away. Some of them dealt with funding and some other issues. Coming here today, telling us, what's going on in terms
I can't hear you.
of, I was gonna say on that note, I will just thanking you. Appreciate the staff, me and share with me the ideas.
I can't
Chairman
hear.
Jones, your audio is
I
not
can't hear.
We can't hear you, Mr. Chair.
I think his internet is down.
I can hear you. It's fine. How about now?
You're back.
What happened? I was talking, everything appeared, but I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to come to share with us the ideas on transportation and suggestions. And we wish you and the school system and all our children and our staff nothing but the best. I do know that the bus drivers are working extremely hard, running 2 and 3 routes, trying to make it work. And I understand it's not just a problem among us. Everybody hear me? No? Nobody can hit number C. How about now?
Yes.
We can't hear you.
Well, well,
Well,
well, let me just make a quick statement. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for allowing us to provide this update. We are working. We will continue to work. We will provide ongoing updates around several of the topics that I mentioned earlier and topics that you brought up. I want to thank you all for your time. Enjoy the summer. Be safe, and I appreciate all that you do for our school system and our staff, students, and communities. And on behalf of our team here, we say thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you very much.